Why is it that we want to burn ourselves all the way out before we try to make a change? Why must we push ourselves all the way to the edge? Is that really necessary? Hi, my name is Kelly Rhyne, and I am a trauma and grief therapist. And this is Our Collective Threads, a podcast where we try to see if maybe we have a lot more in common than we realize. And the way that we're going to do that is by discussing a common thread that I saw throughout my sessions in the week and even in my personal life or in my world, and seeing if this is a collective thing that's going on, not just, in my little therapy space or in my personal life, but maybe there's a larger collective thread that we are all connected to and experiencing things at the same time. So I hope you will join me on this journey and have some really good, deep conversation with me. So since this is the first episode, I want to talk a little bit about where this came from. First of all, I've really wanted to do a podcast for a very, very, very long time. This has been something I've talked to multiple friends about, trying to lure them in to a podcast with me. And instead of just talking about it or dreaming about it, sometimes you just got to go and see what happens. And so I have decided to fuck around and find out. And I couldn't have done that without feeling like I have something that I'm passionate about as far as format, idea, and something that I've seen over the many years of me doing therapy and living life even is it sometimes feels like all of us are collectively going through similar things at the same time. And I see this in sometimes like a really powerful way in my office, because I'm not kidding you when I say I do not instigate this. I don't bring it up, but my clients start talking about the exact same problems. Their particular struggle all seems to be very similar. So, for example, this week, the common thread that I have found that many of my clients have been working through, struggling through, frustrating through, has been this idea that we have to push ourselves all the way to the edge before we decide to make a change in our life. Essentially, we get into this cycle of abuse with ourselves. Like we have to, or at least feel like we have to get to a really extreme place, super down deep in the valley, in the depths of the hole, before we're like, okay, I guess this is too far. Now I'm going to do something. What is that about? Why is it that we feel like the only way that we're going to make a change is if we have gone through enough extreme suffering? What is it about ourselves or about our culture, about our family systems that make it so we don't feel like we can intervene sooner? Why do we have to suffer in order to earn the right to have a better life or a better outcome? So let me talk about the ways that I have approached this with my clients and sometimes even in my own personal life, right? Because us therapists, we're human too. We are not without fault. We go through our own ups and downs in life, our own frustrations, our own traumas, our own losses, our own celebrations and successes. And I won't lie, this is something I've found myself struggling with in the past as well, where either you can't accept that it's as bad as it is, so we minimize. That's like a big fancy therapy terms and cognitive behavioral terms for it, but we minimize how bad things are getting. We'll say things like, well, It is what it is. Y'all, when I tell you the face I get when I let clients know, by the way, that's a trauma response. But it's true. When we say it is what it is, that is a dissociative response. We are dissociating from the reality of how terrible things are. So I think a big part of getting to the big deep down bottom really has to do at the core and at the heart with dissociation. And this is going to be one of my stump speeches. You're going to hear me talk about dissociation a lot. We as a culture are very dissociative, especially since technology has come around. It's given us a lot more easy access, really, to dissociative techniques and tools. And I want to be clear before I dive deeper into this that dissociation, one, is normal, two, it is natural, and three, it is protective. So when we dissociate, it's because whether conscious or subconsciously, we have determined that we don't have the ability to fight back whatever this is. We don't have the ability to avoid and run away from it. We have to deal with it. So therefore, our only option is freeze, which is when we check out. And there's a lot of ways that we check out. Sometimes we just go into la la land in our mind. Sometimes we are literally just going through the motions, and that can mean that we are watching our favorite TV show on repeat and we're not even really watching it. It's just in the background because it creates this comfort for our dissociation. We play really repetitive games like farming or Candy Crush kind of things. There is nothing wrong with that. And sometimes dissociation is actually necessary for recovery. What I am talking about is when it goes past the point of recovery and it goes into a point of just waiting for everything to end. And it's not because there's an actual danger in our environment, but it's because our body is so used to constant danger that it anticipates and expects that danger is always lurking around the corner. So we go into dissociative states to protect ourselves from that. Something I talk to my clients about all the time is that if you grew up in a setting where you had to constantly be on alert, especially as a young kid, you are going to learn how to adapt your body and your brain and your mind to deal with constant danger. So when you no longer are in that danger anymore, maybe growing up with your family was not the greatest, and so you had to constantly be on alert with them, but now you live on your own and you're in a much safer environment. So there's not really the need to constantly be on this danger alert mode anymore. So your body now has to adapt to the fact that there is no longer danger in your life, at least not in the way that it had been before. Because let's be realistic here, we are never fully 100% safe. The asteroid could hit in the next 5 minutes, but the fact is that there's a lot of moments in our life where we are safe enough to turn off that alarm system that is protecting us from danger and maybe be a little vulnerable. Maybe take the risk of relaxing, take the risk of resting, take the risk of being emotional and feeling our feelings. So when it comes to that overwhelm, when it comes to that burnout that we experience, that we have to see things are like at its literal atrocious worst possible level it could absolutely be before we would make a change. What's really happening there is essentially someone slapping you in the face or splashing you with water to wake you the fuck up. What if we could intervene before it gets to that level, before it gets to the level where we literally need something to slap us in the face to wake up. Because I know that sometimes it feels like we are always here, but it builds up, it fluctuates. It is not always here. It's doing a up, a down, and around, and an all the way above and below. It is not going to always be an extreme. It might feel like it is sometimes, because also realize that when you are in that extreme moment, you're already like in that extreme moment. So everything feels extreme. But if you really think about it as you go through your daily life, those extremes don't exist 24/7. There are some levels here. We have to be able to recognize at these lower level times that intervention is necessary. So, how do we intervene? How do we deal with things sooner rather than later? Well, a big part of it is the awareness to begin with. We have to be aware. We have to be aware that it's happening. So, even just being able to name, oh, wow, I'm starting to feel anxious right now. Oh, wow, I'm getting really irritated at everything. If we can just be aware of that, we can do a lot with that, right? So if we can be aware, oh, wow, I'm starting to get irritated, we can start to be curious about what really started that. Like, if I started to feel irritated all of a sudden, that doesn't come from nowhere. Something irritated us to start. So be curious about that. Is it a sensory issue, right? Like maybe you are a little neurospicy. And neurospicy, by the way, does not just mean autistic and ADHD. There's a lot of things that fall under the neurodivergent umbrella. And that includes, by the way, CPTSD and PTSD. But consider what in your environment is causing some form of discomfort. Is it temperature related? Are you too hot or too cold? Is there a smell you don't like? Or is there a smell triggering you and causing you to go back into a memory that feels unsafe? Is there something as far as a certain person that has authority over you and makes you really nervous? Figure out what started the choo-choo train of irritation or the choo-choo train of fear and anxiety, and acknowledge it. Because y'all, a big reason we get so dissociative is because we aren't acknowledging and listening to our own feelings. So think about a little kid for a second. If they went up to their mom and they're like, Mom, 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 and mom's trying to cook dinner and is ignoring them, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to keep trying to get her attention. They're not going to just walk away, not easily. And so they're going to keep poking and prodding mom, Mom, Mom. They're going to pull on her skirt. They might even start kicking her because they want to be heard. They want to be acknowledged. Like, think about when you actually are like trying to be vulnerable with someone and tell them, wow, this week fucking sucked. And they kind of brush it off. And it's like, oh no, like it's going to get better. You're fine. Notice how that feels in your body. How do you react to someone ignoring your feelings? Now, think about the fact that you are literally doing that to yourself. When we push away our frustration, our anger, our anxiety, our disgust, even our happiness, we push away our happiness too, y'all. Maybe we feel like we don't deserve the happiness. Imagine what it felt like when someone ignored your cry for help. And now I want you to realize that when we ignore our own feelings, we're doing the same thing to ourselves. Easier said than done. I'm not ignorant. And I think it is important to acknowledge that if we don't treat ourselves like we would treat a friend who is suffering, we're causing a lot of harm toward ourselves. It's another version of self-harm, really, because our voices deserve to be heard. Our feelings deserve to be acknowledged. Now that we've acknowledged our feelings, now what? What do we do? Well, we feel them. Once we can acknowledge how we're feeling, the next step is to feel them. Give yourself permission to feel. Again, easier said than done. If you really struggle with feeling your feelings, I'm going to encourage you to start with your body. So if engaging with a memory or with your anger is not working, start with your body. Notice, what is your body telling you? Are you feeling any aches or pains anywhere? Are you feeling nauseous? Is your heart racing? Are you getting a migraine? Is your jaw tense? Have you been clenching your jaw? And just notice that. Just notice, what is your body remembering? Because your body has been with you your whole life. And just like we have memories and flashes and pictures of things that we've gone through, our body does too. And sometimes they're not always working together. So we might need one to engage with the other and vice versa. If we can't engage in the memory, maybe we can get there through our body. So if our body is feeling heat in our chest and our heart starts to race, just notice that. Let yourself feel it. Let yourself feel your fear. Affirm that your fear is valid because you've been through a lot. You've experienced a lot, and your body is wanting to keep itself safe and protected, and it's concerned that it is in danger. So don't ignore that feeling, because feelings just are. We cannot control them. We can only encourage them. So if you feel afraid, you feel afraid. You might also feel excited and happy too, because we can feel multiple things at once. Our bodies, our brains are complex. We can be happy and excited that we graduated high school and nervous and fearful that we are about to become a full-fledged adult and have to take care of ourselves all at the same time. Emotions are complex. Emotions are also triggers. We might have grown up in a house where we were told that crying is a sign of weakness. So that makes it really complicated to feel sad and upset. Because if I were to cry right now, that might put me in danger. And we have to remind ourselves that we are no longer in that house. We are at home by ourselves. We're in a bathroom, wherever we might be, but we are not in that space anymore. And therefore, that role, in order to keep ourselves safe, no longer applies in this moment. So maybe it is safe enough to let myself shed a tear. Maybe it is safe enough to be angry as fuck. Punch the air, kick the air, scream into a pillow, scream into the ether if you can and feel comfortable. Let it out. Your feelings are valid, and there are lots of ways to express our feelings that don't harm ourselves and don't harm other people. We just might not have learned how to do those things yet. You got to have the yet mindset. Just because we haven't done it doesn't mean we won't ever do it. It just hasn't happened yet. We just haven't learned how to do it yet. So since we are just getting to know each other, and you may even have just stumbled upon this podcast and have no idea who the fuck I am, I, in addition to being a trauma and grief therapist, am also a highly spiritual person and even have a Master of Divinity and studied religion. And I am really passionate about sitting in the mystery of life, the mysticalness of it all, so to speak. And so part of what I want to do on this podcast is kind of lean into that mystery, right? Being curious about what connects us as humans, not just from a practical, logical mindset, but also being curious about how we even got here and why we are the way we are, and sitting into the mystical mystery of it all. And this might turn some of y'all off, but I love doing tarot and oracle. And the reason I love it, please stay with me. Don't run away. I know I said trigger words for some of y'all, but the reason I love tarot and oracle is because the imagery is so powerful. And when you pick like a lot of the different decks, you'll find some really beautiful, powerful writing as well. And so I really love engaging with tarot and oracle because even if you don't approach it from like a spiritual place, it can be really powerful connecting to the art of it. So it doesn't have to be religious or spiritual or even mystical. It can really just be an appreciation of art and connecting to the story and the imagery and the words and seeing how it speaks to you and your life. And so as a part of this podcast, I thought it'd be really cool to just kind of bring together our thread of the day by ending with a little card pull and seeing what we can connect with from that. Since we're discussing burnout today and how we have to sometimes, or like feel like we sometimes have to burn ourselves out in order to make a change in our life, I thought, what better deck to bring out than my Lineages of Change tarot deck, y'all? I got But by the way, there is no promo happening here. I just love tarot, and so no one is paying me to talk about any of these particular decks. I just have an obsession. By the way, I'm autistic and ADHD as fuck, and this is one of my special interests. So sorry, not sorry. But this deck is absolutely amazing. It's actually created by a variety of Black artists, and the the cards and the readings are all based in Black art, including pairing it with an amazing Black writer quote. Anyway, Lineages of Change Tarot. Highly recommend. One of the more expensive decks I've bought, but it was worth every single cent. The quality is chef's kiss. But like, even just like on the sides, like, it has like these amazing quotes. So like on the side here, it says, revolution is about change. And the first place the change begins is in yourself. And that is Asada Shakur. And they also even have God is change. And then you open up the box. I love this deck so much. Okay. Anyway, so I thought it'd be really cool to pull from this particular deck because we're talking about what's getting in the way of our ability to change. So let's see what the cards have to say. Oh, this is so cool. Okay. Also, y'all, like I said, autistic and ADHD as fuck. When I do tarot, I get excited. So if you're looking for the tarot reader who's like, guys, today we're going to talk about the sun, that's not going to be this. Okay. I I get too excited. I just get like invested. Okay. So the card that I pulled to answer our question, what is getting in the way of our ability to change before we burn out? What is getting in the way of that? The card I pulled is actually very powerful because it is part of the major arcana. So for those who have not done tarot before, you have the major and the minor arcana. And the major arcana is the telling of the story of humanity from full to world. And so we pulled a major arcana card, and usually that signifies that this is something really significant in life. It's like kind of like putting an exclamation point on it. So the card I pulled was Ancestral Wisdom. How beautiful is this art, y'all? I love it so much. The Ancestral Wisdom key words are experience, ancient, teacher, and wisdom. So when time, study, and experience are at our backs, wisdom is in our grasp. We are able to offer others what they ask for without depletion. We can tap into that brilliance, which is timeless. We've seen enough to give context to what we know, and those around us may be open to our guidance. Let humor shape your stories and grief sit unashamed at your table as you easily teach what wants to come through you specifically. So, I love this. What do you know well enough to teach? I think what's standing out to me in this, in regards to our topic, right, is why, again, the topic is why do we burn out before we make a change? I think what this is really speaking to for me is what can we teach ourselves? What knowledge or wisdom do we already know that we are not even engaging in or acknowledging. I think that that is actually extremely important and insightful. I tell my clients all the time when they come to me, no one comes in this room skill-less. Everyone has skills, or they would be dead. They wouldn't have even called me. So they have some skill set that has gotten them here. We all have knowledge. Whether we access it or not is another question, but we all have understanding. We all have knowledge. And sometimes when we get into those deep, dark depths, we forget what we know. So how can we teach ourselves or relearn what we already know? Okay, so this also comes with a quote from Octavia Butler from Parable the Sower, which, by the way, phenomenal book. I'm also like a total book talk nerd person. Yeah, Parable the Sower, sci-fi, chef's kiss. Okay, here is a quote from that very book. Your teachers are all around you. All that you perceive, all that you experience, all that is given to you or taken from you, all that you love or hate, need or fear will teach you if you will learn. Ooh, oh, Octavia. Oh, there's so many directions I could go with this. This is so fucking good. Yeah. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the fact that all around us are things to learn if we are willing and open to recognize that there is something to learn too. And this so perfectly correlates with our conversation today. How do we learn, guys? We definitely don't learn through perfection, I'll tell you that. We learn by making mistakes and being wrong and being the fool and being uneducated and being naive. You have to start in a place of acknowledging that you do not know everything and you will never know everything. And the beauty of humanity is our curiosity. It's our want, our need, our pull to know more. That is why religion exists in the first place, y'all. It's because we are trying to figure this fucking thing out. We want to know more. We want to understand. This is why science exists. We want to see and know why we are the way we are, how we even came to be, how we stay alive, how we thrive, how we die, how we develop. We want to know all of it. That is a huge, beautiful part of us as humans, is that curiosity. But we have to take the risk of being vulnerable enough to make a mistake and be wrong and be unknowing, because that is when we are gifted the opportunity to not only learn, but to grow. So instead of making it all the way to that burnout moment, what if you risked acknowledging that you are suffering? It doesn't matter if it looks like a mistake to others or even to yourself, because what did I say? Making a mistake is your opportunity for learning and for growth. Yes, it sucks to suffer. Yes, it hurts. And there's a lot of learning and growing that can happen in suffering. There's a lot of knowing ourselves deeper that can happen in that suffering, in that place that leads us to burnout. So thank you so much for joining me for the very first episode of our Collective Threads. I hope you are leaving here feeling seen, feeling acknowledged, feeling heard, maybe leaving with more grounding or maybe even a direction to go with what you're dealing with right now. And I hope that at the end of the day, you leave here feeling like you're not as alone as you thought you once were, and that you are part of this collective. So I leave you with the hope that your roots will deepen this week, and that maybe some of those buds turn into beautiful blooming flowers. Until next time. This podcast was created just for you by Give Into Love Productions through the use of Riverside, your next step in content creation. And finally, a huge shout out to Adrienne Marie Brown and all of the amazing writers and artists who came together to make the Lineages of Change Tarot deck. If you want to get your own because you thought the art and the writing was amazing this episode, make sure to visit rep.club and support the concept bookshop and creative space named Reparations Club, which is Black-owned and woman-owned and curated by Blackness in Los Angeles, California.